One of the most famous quotes that every narcissistic mother has ever said is the "you should be ashamed of yourself." She actually says it with so much conviction, so much pride, and looking at you in a way where it just feels humiliating to even be alive in that moment. And daughters hear that and they bow their heads and they wonder, how bad am I? How unworthy am I? Am I a mistake? If I should be ashamed for who I am, how horrible of a human being am I? But I'm here to tell you that her phrase, you should be ashamed of yourself, is her talking to herself. She's projecting her own buried shame onto you. And also, I want to tell you that you should not in any way, shape, or form be ashamed of yourself, actually. So you should actually be proud. And today I'm going to tell you how. Shame is one of those emotions that quite literally feel like death. And as humans, we are wired to avoid anything that sort of feels dangerous to our lives because we kind of want to stay alive for the most part. But shame feels so dangerous because it threatens our belonging and it's communicating to us the possibility of being defective and therefore will most likely be exiled, right? If a group is to see that we are so problematic, they will sort of exile us. And to our nervous system, being exiled is the ultimate danger, right? Because we cannot survive on our own. So the message behind shame and the feeling that we feel is not you did something wrong, right? It gets so internalized and so felt and so experienced that it says you are something wrong, right? We identify with that shame. And if you're wrong, defective, and unworthy, then you risk to be rejected, abandoned, or cast out completely, starting by your own mother, to your family, to the system, to the world around you, to everything, right? So that is terrifying. So shame as an experience, an internal experience, tends to activate our survival fears. And as I said before, it's for a good reason, because supposedly biologically, we want to be inclined to conform and be around other people. So we have this attunement to how we are perceived, and shame is one of the things that sort of make us change some of our ways and adapt so that we can be part of these groups. Now, as I said before, shame is not this something that you do. It's just that I am bad, right? It's so different than guilt. That guilt says, oh, I'm feeling guilty because I did something bad. But shame says, I am something bad. And that makes you want to shrink, hide, disappear, and overcompensate, ultimately, to be accepted. So if you feel like you should be ashamed for who you are, you may try so hard to not be ashamed of who you are by trying so hard for others to see you as someone good. So now let's talk about something that is called toxic shame, something John Bradshaw did a lot of work on. He actually has a book on it. It's a really very, very good book for you to start on. Something that he observed is that children that have been raised by parents who were emotionally abusive, they installed in these children their unprocessed shame. So it's almost like the shame that we carry beyond sort of like feeling ashamed when we do something becomes something that we are given when we're kids by those who project it onto us and give us their shame. So the essence of narcissistic parents and narcissistic parents are very narcissistic, and you wouldn't think that they're ashamed of themselves because you're like, oh, they're so grandiose. There's no way they think they should be ashamed of themselves. But in reality, narcissism is rooted in shame, right? The core sort of experience internally is shame, but the narcissistic person is so unaware of themselves that they're not even aware of it, right? It doesn't exist in a place where their awareness can touch on it, but it's there, and that shame is projected then onto you. So they see in you all the things that they're ashamed of or they were ashamed of, and now they're shaming you for them. They're completely oblivious to the fact that it's them. They're interacting with their parts. And I always say that, narcissistic parents tend to use us as props to externalize their own internal conflicts that they're not aware of. And then they go to war with us but in reality, they're at war with themselves. And that completely ruins our lives. And then we struggle so much to do anything, because imagine, a gentle, sweet little innocent child suddenly is projected on so much shame and hatred and dismissal and all of these toxic things by an adult that cannot process their own emotions and experience, right? So how do narcissistic mothers pass their shame onto the daughters? So the first thing, and it's quite common between daughters of narcissistic mothers, is that they are criticizing you for the traits that they reject themselves. And one of the most important things are the body, right? She will just be very, very horrible and very too honest. She says honesty or trying to help you about your body, but really she hates herself and she hates her body. Or there's parts of her that she's ashamed of, or she was bullied when she was a child, and then you have to hear it. It has to be done to you, right? So she will scrutinize you or really praise you when you're in a perfect sort of place, but then when you're there, she's not gonna be too happy. She's gonna be jealous. It's a mess, right? It's like you can never get it right. But anyway, she criticizes you for the traits that she rejects in herself. So if she was shamed for being emotional, loud, sexual, messy, needy, she will shame you for being the same, basically being a human, which will make you want to hide those parts yourself. So you see how generationally, whatever messaging she got, she will just throw it onto you. She will police your body, your weight, your beauty, your appearance. And she will constantly scrutinize you, right? And talk about your body without respect, right? That you have feelings and she should be nice about it. And also makes it into a mission for you to look a certain way. Like it's her body. It's like, dude, it's my body. I can look the way that I want to look, kind of thing, right? And then, but in the process of that, you really start to believe that your body is a problem to fix, but she started it. Another way to sort of like give you all of that shame, for your narcissistic mother, how she passes on that shame is by rewarding you with obedience and punishing your authenticity. When you express your truth, your needs, or your boundaries, you get coldness, you get rage, you get guilt tripping, because you're being taught that being real is being unlovable. So of course you're going to be ashamed for who you are. You're like, oh, I just had an expression of my emotions here. Or I just said that I need something and I'm ashamed for it. I should be ashamed for it. And then I feel ashamed for having needs. I feel ashamed for having boundaries. I feel ashamed for being a person that wants to speak their truth, right? Now, how else does she pass her shame on to you? Well, she compares you to others, especially to other women, siblings, cousins, classmates, whoever, someone who is always better than you. And a lot of these mothers will also compare you to their younger self, right? When I was your age, I used to do that. And you're like, whatever. So you internalize a constant sense that you can never measure up. Like this is, eventually you're like, oh, everybody's better than me. So you walk around this life feeling ashamed for who you are and constantly feeling like you're falling short from everybody. Your mother also narcissistic mothers also like to mock you or invalidate your emotions. If you're crying, you're dramatic. If you're too sensitive, you're selfish. If you're upset, you're manipulative. She is projecting. If there's a manipulative and selfish and dramatic person in that room, we all know who that is, and that is not you. But what you end up learning is that vulnerability is shameful. You're not supposed to have emotions that are seen by others, and you're ashamed of your emotions. Now, the other thing that these mothers love to do is if you're too confident, too joyful, too bright, she will find a way to dim that. And that is the epitome where you can see the internalized misogyny. When a woman sees a younger woman in her light, in her prime, in her power, and she feels threatened, what you understand in that moment is that woman was not allowed to shine herself, right? And this is not to justify your mother. It's just to see how she's internalized that she's not supposed to be someone too loud, too joyful, too confident, which now means that you are not allowed to do the same. what I tend to always say is that the biggest carriers of patriarchy are women. Women who have internalized patriarchy are then indoctrinating other women to patriarchy, right? And it's almost like it's a cult that we teach others how to be part of, even though we don't choose to be part of. So in a way where you can see, a very, very important clue that we are dealing with that is this, right? Because patriarchy at its root has to do with disempowering women. And so a woman that is not comfortable seeing you in your power, seeing other women in their power, is a woman who has internalized that she's not supposed to be powerful. And she will resent you for your power. And if she's your mother, what she will do is she will break you down. She will break you down. So she will find ways to make you feel, to take you from all that pride that you have and the confidence to shame. And that is going to happen so many times that eventually you will see and you will connect, you will wire it in your brain and in your nervous system, that when you self-express, when you're confident, when you're successful, when you're shining too bright, somebody's going to shame you. You're going to be shamed. You shouldn't do that, right? It's almost like the prohibited thing that women are not supposed to do. And that's something that narcissistic mothers are natural to doing, right? All mothers that have internalized misogyny will do that. All mothers will try to teach you and pass on what they know. And a lot of what they know for most mothers is that you're supposed to be small, digestible, quiet, perfect, just something that can be put in a box. So any mother that sees you get out of that box will try to pull you back into the box under the pretense of care. But what she's doing in reality is serving patriarchy. But the narcissistic mother is quite much more misogynistic than any other mother because of how she has structured it in her brain, that the overpowering of others is how we feel powerful ourselves, right? Narcissism is patriarchal and patriarchy is narcissistic, right? So somebody who possesses narcissistic traits operates on the premises of overpowering the other, of hating the ones that are naturals at something. And women have been hated since day one for the natural and incredible skill that they have. Not even skill. It's like the most natural thing that we could do is to bring life. But that's for a different day. That's a big topic. But just know that this is something much deeper than your mother. But the narcissistic mother is going to be really keen on breaking you down, while at the same time she wants you to excel. You're not as good as your cousin, and then you become better than your cousin. And she's like, "Who do you think you are? Why are you showing off? What is wrong with you? You should be ashamed of yourself. You should not be ashamed of yourself." Please, if you remember something from this video, make sure that it's that you should not be ashamed of yourself. So how do we heal our toxic shame, all this shame that we've been passed on by these women? First of all, what makes toxic shame thrive is secrecy, right? We feel like we are hiding a part of ourselves we should be so ashamed of. And I think the opposite thing of dealing with toxic shame about ourselves is to do the opposite and find pride for ourselves. And I touch on this in much of my work. I feel like we don't talk about it enough because it sounds like, oh, you're going to be grandiose. You're going to be, what do you think you're superior? Why do we? But being proud of who we are is literally what we're supposed to be doing. Why would we not be proud of ourselves? But the connotation of I'm proud or I'm feeling superior, I'm in the superior scale of things instead of feeling inferior. Because it has this comparing contrast, I can understand it may sound different, but the way I see it is more like we have in front of us a big thing that weighs a lot, right? And we think, you know what? I weigh more than this, so I can do it. And that's kind of like the attitude of superiority in life is more like thinking, I have all of these things happening, but I'm stronger than these things. It's not like I'm better than someone else. Like, it's not grandiosity. It's not narcissism. It's more like knowing that I'm equipped to do things. So I feel when we're trying to heal shame, we have to essentially push ourselves over the spectrum of feeling inferior and ashamed and in secrecy and thinking that what we have within is something disgusting, that if anybody was to see, they're going to run away and all the other stuff that your parents told you. that whoever gets to know you will run away, that whoever really sees the true you will be disgusted, and all these horrible things that they said. We have to find pride for that little human that we are. Instead of trying to make them perfect or hide them, we have to find pride. And the only way that I found that this works, and actually also John Bradshaw talks a lot about it too, is reconnecting with our inner child. Because there's no way that you would really reconnect with the younger you and not realize what a lot of BS all over the things that you've been told are, right? But there's so many parts of you that have been injured in the past by these parents, and the hurtful things they said, and the way they looked at you, right? The way they looked at you with so much disgust that gave you so much shame, right? That it felt like there's no self left. Right? It just really breaks down our psyche when we're looked at with so much hatred and disgust. It's really painful. And narcissistic parents do that because they project that. Because there's no way somebody holds so much hatred or disgust for a child. This is their own thing, right? This is their own thing that they are projecting onto you, that was projected onto them, that was projected onto the, like, this is generational shame at its core and how we're being raised. And narcissism is also a generational sort of adaptation that sort of carries all these things through. It carries patriarchy, it carries shame for the self, it carries unworthiness, and we're all being entrained to be small, to chase our worth, and to be basically then hostages of the people who raised us and give them blind loyalty, because who abuses you and makes you feel like you're unworthy and not good enough will always be in control of you. And everybody knows that. Narcissists know that. Parents know that. Leaders who are toxic know that. And parenthood is no different in that aspect. That's why the entitlement and the expectation that so many of your parents have, that although they treated you horribly, you are supposed to take care of them now that they're old. Or else you're ungrateful. They were ungrateful that you were their child. That's the ungrateful thing was them not realizing that they got to be your parents. They were ungrateful for the gift that they had to raise you. But nonetheless, healing shame is an inner work of getting in touch with the parts of us that hold the shame and heal those parts. We have to go back to these children, right? The inner children, the memories, really, that we hold, witness what happened with the eyes of a compassionate witness, and then give them the compassion and the love that they did not get. It's basically giving ourselves another opportunity to re-experience the things that injured us so much and gave us all that shame, so that we can release all of it. No matter what mistakes we made, how many bad things we did in our lives, feeling ashamed for the core of who we are is not the appropriate emotion. We've been dumped these emotions, and it's so heavy for a child, but then it becomes so heavy for an adult. And then we spend our entire lives running away from feeling that shame by, doing all sorts of things and trying to numb ourselves and destroy ourselves. We hate ourselves because this feeling is so painful and feels so catastrophic because it's so massive that we cannot stand to experience it. Now, back to what I said about superiority. We are superior to this feeling because it is just a feeling, right? That needs to be felt. When we were kids, no. When we were kids, it was catastrophic. It was too big. Imagine generational shame coming onto a little child. We stood no chance. We took it in. We made it our personality. That's it. But when we're adults, feeling the shame, this shame is something we can do. It's heavy, it's big, it's painful, but we can do it. But the difference is that we're not going to feel it as if it's really real. No, as if it's self-descriptive, right? We're not going to sit here and be like, I'm ashamed of myself. Let me just feel the shame I have for the self, right? No. It's going back and feeling it on behalf of the child that was afraid to feel it because it was too big, and we assumed it, and then we lived our entire lives running away from it and trying to hide ourselves so that people don't see what a horrible being we are, right? So by going back and revisiting the younger selves that we have, we allow for shame to be experienced by the adult in the room. It's almost like we're there and we're like, let me just take this. And then we also have to give it to the parents. We have to give it back to them. It's not our shame to carry. It is not, and it was never our shame to carry. And many people are like, oh, generational trauma, you're going to heal your lineage. No, heal yourself. And this is coming from somebody who did family constellations. And I got an extensive education on it that is all about healing our family systems. And then at some point, I'm like, wait a minute. No. Heal ourselves, and then we continue. And if there's something really important that I need you to know is that you healing your family system and doing all of this work for them is something that can put you in a loop where you have to be doing the work that they're not willing to do. So if you're going to be doing work, do it for you, for the younger you, for the now you, for the future you, for the children that you may have, for the life that you want to live, not for the past. So the path of healing shame is, as I said, we do inner child work with the parts of us that hold shame. And then we sort of take the process of basically go from being ashamed of who we are to becoming someone we feel proud of. And that also requires to be actively trying to do good in our lives, right? Because, for example, if we have all this toxic shame, right, eventually it catches up with us. We're stuck. Our relationships are bad. Our work is bad. Everything in our life is just bad. And so now we're ashamed for these things. We have things to blame for our shame. We're addicted, we're this, we're the other. We're ashamed for these things so that we don't feel the shame that we hold within for the core of the self. And these environments that we create when we are feeling so much shame are now reflecting that we should be ashamed because look at this. I'm nothing. I'm worthless. I can't amount to anything. My parent was right. Oh, my mom was right. She was right to tell me this. My dad was right. They were not right. They didn't predict you'd fail. They just made sure you would, right? I have a video on it. I'm going to put it somewhere here. But the thing is that eventually the life we create doesn't reflect something we can also even be proud of. And it feels really devastating to say that because we think, oh, I should be proud of myself for just existing. But eventually, if we're an adult, that we can't manage to do anything and everything crumbles and everything is a mess, it's hard to feel proud because essentially we don't even feel confident in ourselves to do life, right? And that makes us feel not proud. So the second process of, after doing the healing and the inner child work is to create a life that we're proud of, not necessarily because of milestones of others, but put ourselves through trials to succeed things, to achieve things that we want and become someone that can take care of ourselves, right? Because eventually our life is going to mirror that. And as I said before, it's sad to think of that. But when our life is also reflecting that we're not doing anything and no area of our lives is actually functioning, then eventually it's just hard. It's hard to find pride, right? So we will build a different relationship with ourselves as we heal our inner child, and how we regard ourselves will change. And then we will become more able to do life, because we're not longer so ashamed of ourselves and we don't believe the things that we were told. And then we put ourselves out in the world and we try and we build lives that we are, proud of because we've done it. We've done it for ourselves, right? So we go from being ashamed of who we are to becoming someone we feel proud of. And even if we don't get to build the incredible manifestation board type of life worth great, the fact that we are willing and able to go back to our past and to be there for ourselves will instill a sense of pride in us because we have done what nobody else did for us. We showed up for ourselves. We saved ourselves. We became the one that we were waiting for, right? And that begins to feel like something we can start grounding ourselves in. Like, I'm proud of myself for doing this. I'm proud of myself for actually trying, for showing up, for doing this for myself. And then we do little things for our younger selves that, it could be little, so tiny things. I had a client the other day. She has become really afraid to get out of the house, right? And so we did some work, and then we found a part of hers that was stuck in the past, really waiting to be saved and waiting to be loved by her mother and all of that. And as we finished up with the process, there was a moment where, I kind of helped her to see that, now that we're in this space with you and this child, you as the parent, what does she need, right? And what that girl said, I said, I want us to have fun together. I want you to take me places, and I want to go to the beach. And it might sound like a small thing, right? For someone who is afraid to get out of the house, to hear your inner child say, I want you to take me to the beach. I want you to do something for me. That sort of awakens sort of purpose. And then, this is the plan for this week. She's taking herself to the beach. Her younger self, or really it's herself. But going through that process will give her a sense of pride, right? Or for others of you, when you realize how abused you were, creating distance or setting boundaries or not picking up the phone or not allowing them to tell you things creates a sense of pride. Oh, look, I protected myself. I honored myself. I did what I was supposed to do, right? So these are things that then sort of build momentum, and we slowly go from constantly feeling ashamed of ourselves to building moments of self-pride that are internal, with these internal little things that then become external. Then we become proud of something we've achieved that was a goal of ours, right? Or we become proud of how we've managed to show up for something that was difficult in our lives and we actually pulled through, or that we finished a project that felt impossible. And these little senses of pride bring us slowly and surely to a stance toward life that we feel superior to our circumstances. That we see it all, we're like, oh, it's heavy, some of it is heavy, but I'm stronger than it. So, inner child work, committed inner child work, and then start doing things that make you proud of who you are. And if you want help with inner child work, and also to get rid of so much of what your childhood sort of left you with, Heal is going to be a magnificent resource for you. But either way, know that it's never late. It's never late to recover and to get stronger than your circumstances. And it's never late to find pride for the self that you are and to release all of the shame that this mother dumped on you. And it's never late to essentially take all of that shame, put it in a box, close it, and give it to your mother and say, you know what? Take it. It was never mine to begin with. I'll see you guys soon.